Retro Gaming Revival live.
Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock for us anyway, and it is time for Retro Gaming Revival Live. We have got a phenomenal show lined up. So we will go round, introduce everyone that's here, and get straight to it. So we have got on the panel our usual reprobates. We have got Mr. Triangle Face Tim.
Hello.
We have Mr. Blunners.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Excellent. And we have our absolute guest of honor. We have all the way from Chicago, if I'm correct, we have Master Daniel Pesina. Thank you so much for joining us.
Brilliant.
Excellent. How are you doing? Are you all good?
Yeah, pretty good. Not as hot as you guys are, but you know.
It's warm.
There. Yeah.
It is warm. Yeah, I'm trying never to ever say it's too hot over here ever again, because that's such a British thing, is to go, oh, it's far too hot. And before I know it, it'll be winter, and I don't like winter, so I'm trying to just, even though it is pretty warm, I'm trying really hard to not be too upset about it. But it's yes, it is warm. We'll go with that. It is warm.
Yeah.
This is in the background. It's actually this hot.
Yeah. In April, I was in the UK, in London, and my mates were like, "Man, it's really hot out today," and I'd walk outside and I'd be like, no. I thought it was mild. I thought it was mild. And I learned that the climate of an island is pretty relatively around the same all the time.
It's okay, yeah. We do get good seasons. Our winters are progressively getting colder, and our summers are getting progressively hotter. Like spring, April, May time. So the time that you're over is probably about the sort of typical sort of weather I like. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's that Goldilocks territory where it's, that sits nicely with me.
So in Chicago, like in the winter time, we have people who can take boiling water and they throw it out their window and it turns to snow before it hits the ground. So
Wow.
Yeah, my brother went. I've got family in the States, and when I went out in November and we went to Columbus, I couldn't even put my hands outside my coat. It was that cold.
Sub-zero winds.
Yeah. Oh man, we've lost Blunners.
Oh, it's all right. My camera's just gone.
All right, we still.
Fatality.
But yeah. But just before Blunners comes back, we got a comment on the quality of your microphone, Blunners. It's so nice to be able to hear you so clearly for a change. This is fantastic. You've moved on from Dalek to being completely clear. This is great.
Oh, mate.
We've now just lost your camera though. Okay. We have got so much stuff that we wanna talk to you about, and so we will get it kicking off straight away with our the first topic that a lot of us would love to ask you about, and that is, how did you get involved with the Mortal Kombat franchise? What was the process to kind of introduce you as some of the characters?
The process was. My brother, Carlos, who's great, hung out with a group of friends, and they were artists. They would draw. Sometimes they draw like my parents' I recall them drawing at my parents' kitchen table and other friends' kitchen table, and I'm very close with my brother, so I would stop by and see how he was doing, and his friends were my friends too, even though I was older. We hung out together, and one of his friends was John Tobias. So I remember when I think when John just started college, And he called me up. And he's like, "Hey, let's make a movie. I want to make a movie." Where he wanted to be the director, and then I do martial arts and beat up my brother and Rich DiVizio's Kano. They were all friends, so I would get to beat them up. The movie never happened. But years later, I got off from doing stunts from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and John calls me up. It's like, "Hey, remember we were going to do that crazy movie and we never got to do it?" That's another long story. But where we were turning in to make, we're going to do it a guerrilla style. So we're turning into a forest preserve to shoot the movie, and a car comes around and hits us and almost kills Rich. But that's a different story. Who's Kano? Oh. But anyway, I was like, started laughing. I was like, yeah. He's like, I work for a company called and again, I want to make a fighting game for it. I want it live action, and I want it to be real martial arts. And he's just like, and I was just like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And he's like, "It's never been done as real martial arts or anything like this." And because I used to play video games too, and I know I played Pit Fighter before, and I played Street Fighter, but those games were, not only animated, but the martial arts or the action was not correct. You break something if you use the techniques. Mm-hmm. You break yourself if you use those techniques at a different person. So they're not accurate, but they're cool to play. So I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that sounds really cool. Let's do this." So he's like, "Well, first thing is I don't want anybody to know about my idea. So you're going to have to show up late in the studio, and I want to videotape you, and you record some fight scenes in some forms, martial art forms, and I'm going to present that with drawings that I have. So come, and then I'll show you my drawings, and then we're going to make a presentation to Midway Games." So I showed up later. We kind of snuck in, to the studio, recorded some stuff, played some free games, because everything was about the coins back then. So you had to pay it, but playing it for free, man, it was awesome. People have no idea nowadays. They can get on their consoles and play forever for free, while we, had to shell out quarters, all the time. So anyway, he had some drawings, general drawings, and the thing was to present them to Midway. So he presented them to Midway, and called me up and he was like, "Hey, they want to hear more about the idea. So you really need to." The whole thing was that we were going to do 200 arcade cabinets. It was going to be a short run. There was going to be like a lot of games. There's just going to be 200, but I would get to help create the game. He couldn't pay me a lot, but he's like, "But you can use it as a credit. You could say you helped create this game and help be part of the team for this game." And I was like, "Okay, this sounds really cool. To do it. It sounds like a good credit. It'll be a small game, but it'll good to nobody's ever done this game, so it'll be good, like cutting edge." So I showed up along with my brother Carlos and Rich, with John, to talk to a representative of Midway, who was Ed Boone. So we were going to pitch the game to Ed. So, during that process, we described things that we wanted, blood in the game. We wanted X-rays in the game. These had so many things because we're all geeks, collect comic books and play video games. So we wanted the things that we saw in animes and video games to be in our video game. So one of the things was I was like, "John, in order to be really unique, we need to change the Japanese ninja into Lin Kuei." And then he never heard of it, so I explained to him. I told him about the book. Later on, I took him to a martial arts store to buy the book. That way, get the right book, because we were going to replace the Japanese ninjas with the Chinese ninjas. And then later on, this story used to be Japanese and Chinese. That's not originally how it started out. We're going to just have Lin Kuei, Battles of the Lin Kuei.
Because I always thought that the Lin Kuei was from Mortal Kombat. I didn't know that Lin Kuei was actually like a Chinese ninja clan. I think it was while I watched your interview with Mean Machine Dean, who's we've had on, he's a friend of the show, and I remember hearing about that and thinking, yeah, wow, I just wanted to hear a bit about where that came from. So was that just a ninja clan that you were aware of, that you just suggested they bring in instead?
Yeah, I not only I was aware of it, it was, hey, Nick, it was because I do Chinese martial arts primarily. So, and two, it's the late 80s. Everybody does Japanese ninjas. So I didn't want this game to be like any other game. We wanted to make it really unique. We're talking about, John always knew that when we get together, we were like a creative group. Some people would draw. I would do martial arts, but I also collect comic books, and I could really critique by some of their drawings. I'd be like, "Oh, this kick is not correct. You need to shape the knee like this in order for the kick to be accurate, or just things like that."
Yeah.
So with the Lin Kuei, my fascination with them was the alchemy, the mysticism with the martial art. So ninjas came out of nowhere. They're good at hiding. They had smoke bombs, but the Lin Kuei legend is like alchemy. They would summon demons. They would do all this crazy stuff. So I wanted to really be part of the game. Use magic, use turn into projectiles, use that type of thing in the game. So that's where I was like, it would be a really unique game.
Yeah, that was very, very cool because, like Tim says, I just didn't realize it was I thought it was from Mortal Kombat. It just shows how, people that aren't, I guess, well versed in that sort of thing would just accept that it's from Mortal Kombat. So it's very cool to sort of learn that there is, effectively a real Lin Kuei sort of there, and that's where it's sort of all based from. That's it's absolutely fascinating, and that probably has done wonders for them as well, I would have thought, because it's such a well-known thing now. If you mention Lin Kuei to video gamers and even just people that are just fans of Mortal Kombat, they know exactly what you mean. It's my
idea worked.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it did work, definitely.
You said you're looking to do something cutting edge, and it absolutely was at the time that came out. Like, we'd never seen anything like it. I can remember just being blown away by the graphics at the time when it first came out, like having the actual actors in the game just looks so cool. Like, it would really work today, right, if we had that from where graphics have got to now. But back when those games first came out, it was definitely cutting edge. Like, that was the pinnacle, wasn't it, really, of the latest games?
Yeah, not to argue with you, but I think that today, if they used live actors, they would just need to have, again, somebody who's cutting edge. But two, after we pitched the game to Ed and Midway, they said no. They said no to the game. That it would, and I can understand. Ed is representing Midway and he's worried about making the money back. If they're going to invest in a game, they've got to make some kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought it was like, he's like, this type of game won't make money. He's like, we need a licensing game to make money. So he wanted more of a mainstream beat 'em up game. He just thought that the matchup wouldn't work. And then so they pursued Van Damme for a different team. And later on, when that fell through, John called me up and he was like, hey, that Van Damme thing fell through. And I started laughing. I was like, what happened? Like, Van Damme lied. These guys are cheap. So he's like, so are you willing to help me create this game? And so John and I sat in a game on us, but sat in a closet. Later on, they cleaned it out and became a filming studio. But at the time, it was full of desks that people didn't want, chairs, broken lamps, all that stuff. So we found a flat wall, gray wall, to film against. And John and I spent 5 or 6, 8 to 10-hour days filming every martial art imaginable, so we could get an idea of how to create it. The camera we used was not John's dad's camera. The first thing he says to me, put me in front of the camera, he was just like, do something cool.
Just like that.
Yeah, I just started doing this. He's like, whoa, we got to slow down because it's going to look too grainy. So when you do stuff, so right away, we thought it was going to be able to use more of the video footage. Later on, just because of memory, it was, they took out certain frames, but originally we wanted to use a lot more frames and we experimented with that. But the gameplay was just too slow, to show like, it wasn't, on that type of computer, it was just too slow, lagging. the techniques were lagging. They had to cut out frames to make it more playable.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
did that sort of help? I guess like form the game essentially because you couldn't maybe necessarily move quite as quick as maybe they wanted to. So did that kind of like I guess enforce like some of the moves because the moves in the game are iconic, even today. With the most up to date computer graphics and the processing powers of all these computers, the moves for the games are still almost the same move sets. Yes, they do things that are a little bit more flashier now, and they might throw in an extra spin here and there, but ultimately the core moves for those characters are still there, and that it's so cool.
And do you know, I was just thinking about that is whenever I play a fighting game, it's a fighting game I've never played before, and I've got a new character. I'm holding the controller. The two things I try is like, right, is it Street Fighter moves or is it Mortal Kombat moves? And I'll start playing a game. You do the curl forward and punch, do the fireball move. Does it do? And that doesn't work. Back forward punch. Those sorts of combinations, and it will normally do something. And loads of games will either follow the control metrics of Street Fighter or the control metrics of Mortal Kombat. Because those are like they still use that today, in modern games.
Yeah, that's my own. Again, I think we're going to touch on that later, maybe. But the only thing that I see with the new games, it's like, those movements that I created have not changed in 30 years. There could be so much more done with that. Somebody can has like just when we made the game, John was the lead. It was his baby. He's the main creator. I got to help him create the moves. Saying this would work. This is cool. This is how we do this. This is how we can get away with doing this. This is how we can get away with doing that. This move would look like that move. This move doesn't work. Things like that. Then later on, we brought in Ed, and he did his thing. He's like, oh, I can't use this with this because it's there. We're going to adjust this uppercut into being a little bit further away from you, and making those adjustments. So during the MK1, everyone did their part. John had the vision and did the artist. I did all the martial arts stuff. For every character has some of my input, so to speak. No, don't do that. Do this. Let's do this. Let's try this technique. Let everybody that I had a hand in all the fatalities. I had a hand in creating all the special moves. I had like a hand in kind of the whole physical creation process. How to do, when you see the old video, you see like us sitting on a box, on a staircase. We sat on that staircase because I did a jump 200 times. And I would be like, tuck the leg longer. I need a clean picture of that. Tuck the leg longer, when you're, but don't jump too high. In the end, he wanted to float. And he started laughing. He was like, well, John, what if I sit on something? What if we get the motion where we're jumping? Because I always thought that people can see the physicality of the game. If I'm here and I just sit on a box and throw a kick and I stand back up, it looks like I did that. So I wanted to have like that. Oh, when he's going to get ready to jump, you can see that you can feel there's something in the pixel, something in that picture that he's getting ready to jump. And so I was like, we're going to get the jump up, and then we get the landing, and then I looked around and I was like, we use the staircase to, do the picture. And John was like, let's use a chair. And I was like, no, if we use the chair, it looks like I'm sitting in a chair. Plus, if we use the staircase, I can redesign all the kicks to look a little bit different. They'll be the same kick, but everyone will have a slightly different kick. And people like that. People will not want a cookie cutter game. They want to have everybody have their own personality. They don't have their own personalities. Might as well have them have their techniques just a little bit different. And I was like, man, that's a good idea. Let's do that. So that's what I did.
Yeah, because there's all that famous behind the scenes footage, which with the wonders of the internet, people can see that process now, and the fact that it was documented is fantastic. This is one of these things now that I love so much about things from from that particular era is being able to actually. I'm so glad that people did document the process, and there's all the footage of you guys literally in the blue screen rooms. I think there is footage of you on the staircase, kind of like balancing just to get that kick right, and it's such an incredible thing to see because I think this is probably another reason why people love the early Mortal Kombat. I mean, people love Mortal Kombat all the time, but that early Mortal Kombat is iconic, and you can always tell when a creation process is filled with people that care about it. They want it to be good, and they actually are enjoying themselves making it. Those are almost like the three things. If all of that is present, then whatever it is that they're making kind of almost lives forever. And I think that is why certainly Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, they're definitely my favorite Mortal Kombats. And it's that process, it's that love, that care that went into it. Like we said at the beginning, it was groundbreaking. Just all of the effort that went into it. It's so cool. So cool.
Yeah, I started posting all that video footage. Like I started posting, and then eventually Warner Brothers wanted me to take it down because I don't know why. Because I have like 8 hours worth of footage. So right now, right now I think I posted about a half an hour worth.
Yeah.
So 8 hours short.
Yeah. There's a documentary in there.
Yeah, and two, that's nothing compared to the actual footage. Like that, the first 60 hours of the creation of Mortal Kombat will never be seen because we erased that tape so that way we can put other things over that tape because buying tapes is expensive.
Yeah.
So when we shot a character, it would take literally, I would say maybe 60 hours.
Wow. Per character.
And what's left is 1 hour a tape. So 59 hours are gone.
That's mental. That's good.
Yeah. Because we were again, it's tape. We didn't think it was successful, and that's the whole thing. That's our, that is the whole thing. But two, I always thought it was going to be at least really, really cool because they were letting us do whatever we wanted. There was no. One time, John was like, I saw the first fatality. I looked at him. I was like, holy cow! Because when we were talking to Ed about it, he wanted blood in the game, so it wasn't like a unique idea. There was blood in other games, but this was at this time there was only me fighting me. There was no other character. My own head off and laughing, and I was like, whoa, because it just, sure in the movie it's special effects, but to see it on yourself, I was like, John, can we do this? He goes, look around. And I looked around, he goes, it's just me and you. We can do whatever we want.
That is awesome.
Yeah, then I was just like, you're right.
Isn't it fortunate that that Jean-Claude Van Damme wasn't then brought into the game? Because I don't think we would have the whole franchise of Mortal Kombat that we've got today if that had actually gone ahead. If they wanted to base the game around Jean-Claude Van Damme, that would have been a completely different game, right? So the fact that didn't happen, allowed that all to come about.
Yeah, that would have been like a karate fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he walks, beats people up, and goes up the level, and beats people up, and it's him. And it would have been him that there would be no, not even somebody else would have come up with this. Because I think in time, somebody else would have got the hunger or the vision to create a game like this. Because,
I think everyone on the panel and probably everyone in the chat as well probably has, memories of first playing or first seeing Mortal Kombat. And, this thing I've always found really, I guess, really amusing now anyway, is, we're in this sort of era now where there's a particular generation of people saying that, our generation are, we're too soft, we're snowflakes, we're offended by everything. Yet that generation that are telling us that we're that other generation that tried to ban Mortal Kombat because it was too violent. Everyone's going to want to set fire to each other. Everyone's going to want to decapitate each other from this video game. Isn't it the most awful thing that's ever happened? And it really wasn't. It was the, I'd be lying if I didn't say when I first saw Mortal Kombat that my brain didn't just go, oh my God, I need to go play this game. I need to play this game. But it was only arcade at that time. And I'm 5'8" as an adult, so I'm quite short. And going to an arcade was always a daunting experience as a younger kid over here, because you'd always have the bigger kids who'd get on all the cool games. And the first time I got to play Mortal Kombat, standing on a milk crate so that I could just see what I was doing, and just punching somebody for the first time and just seeing blood, and it just being like this, oh my god, there's blood, punch, 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 punch. Oh yeah,
That's the funny thing as well, because it was one of the, I don't think it was the first, but it was one of the earlier games to have a certificate, like an age rating. But back then it wasn't, people didn't really think much about age ratings in games.
No,
And you could go into an arcade and play it. Like, I don't think I ever had anyone in an arcade like tap me on the shoulder, be like, you're not old enough to play this game. You just go in the arcade, and I think, like, my parents got me Mortal Kombat games when I was a kid that maybe they didn't quite know what it was or know, but I don't know anyone from my friends at school that didn't get Mortal Kombat when they were younger, because I don't think it was really enforced. I don't know whether it was like more of a guideline than an actual certification, because I think the legality of it was already new, wasn't it? Because we didn't really have the age ratings for computer games like we do now back then.
Yeah,
and too, like I said, we were only making 200 arcade games. That's all we were going to make. I goofing around when they finally said, "Hey, we're going to make the games." I was like, "You're going to make 201, and I'm going to get a game." And John was like, "These cost $4,000 each to make, and not doing it. I guarantee you that we're only making $200." That's what they told me. I guarantee you. And all of a sudden one day they came in and, hey, we pre-sold 10,000. So,
unreal.
It's mad, isn't it?
And it's the great thing with that game is, I know there's the draw for things like the blood and the fatalities and this kind of thing, and it is a draw. Most things have to have a unique selling point in order to really capture people's imaginations. And I think even without the blood and the gore, I think Mortal Kombat would have captured imaginations, because it was, like we said before, it's groundbreaking with the terms of the visuals. But even with the gore and the violence and the groundbreaking imagery, the gameplay was so solid, to the point where it is still revered as one of the best arcade, if not the best arcade beat 'em up. I enjoy Street Fighter at the arcade, but I prefer Mortal Kombat on the arcade, because it's just so much more fun. And it's that is just a recipe for everything. When you've got a good game with a good unique selling point that is also got a little bit of controversy around it, with the gore and the violence at the time, and that sort of thing just creates that unbeatable word of mouth about something. And Mortal Kombat I don't think has ever not had that. It's always had that that grassroots good word of mouth about it.
It's just got such a good cast of characters and moves, isn't it? I think that's what really makes it. I mean, like the Scorpion Harpoon, I think, the get over here, and you can't beat that. That's still can't beat that game. One of the best moves in any fighting game, I think, is the Scorpion Harpoon.
Please tell me you came up with that as the move idea. Was that your idea?
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of a funny story. So Scorpion, we were only going to have one Lin Kuei, Scorpion. Later on, because of time constraints, we were going to have two. But it was like the fourth character we were shooting. So we've already done three, basically almost to the completion of three characters. So, John comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Ed wants to create a move for the game." And then I'm a smart ass. And then I was like, well, does he have any good ideas? Because he didn't think this video game was going to be a good idea. So I was just a smart ass. And that's the way I told him. And John started laughing. He goes, "Yeah, but he's the boss. So we got to let him at least hear his idea."
Yeah.
So Ed comes in. We call Ed. And, okay, come on in, Ed. We want to hear your idea. So Ed comes in. He's like, "I want to get a last stew. Go like this. Throw it over you, and then you get tied, and then I can walk up to you and get free hits." And then I was just like, "Well, that's an okay idea if it was Wonder Woman, but I'm not Wonder Woman. I am not." and John just kind of looked at me, and then I looked at John. But there's a weapon in Chinese martial arts called the rope dart. It's basically to pull horsemen off their horses. It's a dart with a long rope that you wrap around your body, and you shoot it out, and then you pull the guy off the horse. And so as I was going like this, I was like, and you pull the guy at the horse. As I was doing that, Rich Division, whose Kano was there, and he was, as I was doing that, he looked at me in his Kano voice, he said, get over here. So, and everybody started laughing. So, right. So that whole rest of the afternoon, Ed just walked around saying, get over here, laughing, get over here. And John was like, yeah, but, so we'll do that later on, but right now we're doing, because at the beginning we would talk about what we were going to try to shoot and go through the movements to see how they looked, to see how we were going to adjust, kind of thing. So he's like, start thinking of an idea for uh, uh, Yellow Ninjas. He didn't have a name yet. Yellow Ninja special move. Start to try to think about that. After that, you know what I mean? And then when Ed came in and did that, anyway, it just kind of, all of a sudden, there was a collaboration. Somebody would think of something, and then all of a sudden it would relate to something else, and then it would change completely to something else. And it was all kind of done in one.
Yeah, because it's you've just got to hear those three words, and you just instantly know what it is. You just know it. It's so cool. And I agree with Tim. I think the Scorpion rope dart, I think it's one of the, if not the best special move in any fighting game. I mean, the Hadouken's cool in Street Fighter, and everybody's got their cool moves, but it's not a rope dart, is it? With somebody yelling "Get over here," where you just drag them over, and I reckon 99% of people do an uppercut straight away, and it's just it's badass. It is absolutely badass. It's
I think it was like I said, there was a lot of things like that type of thing. Like I talk a lot, but when we were doing Scorpion's fatality, like John was like, I want you to blow fire, and so I did a couple things where I'm blowing fire, and I was like, stop, I'm not doing this. And John's like, why are you smart? Just do it. And I was like, no, because guess what? If I breathe fire, my mask will be on fire, my whole head will be on fire, and I will be running around on fire. And I'm like, smart at it. And then John is like, well, lower the mask, blow fire. And so I do that a couple of times, and then Rich looks at John and says, what if he takes off his mask and he's a skeleton? And then I was just, and his head is on fire, the Ghost Rider. And then we all laughed. That's the whole play of how all of a sudden something crazy turned into something cool.
Yeah, that is so cool. Right, that is going to segue us, because we've covered quite a few topics there, which is fantastic. It's going to segue us, I think, quite nicely onto the topic, which is thoughts on the Mortal Kombat franchise today, because it's a franchise that's been going for 30 plus years. It's gone through arcades, it's gone through consoles, it's made its way to movies, TV shows, animated movies, it's you name it. Mortal Kombat has been sort of part of it, really. And just have you seen, do you play much of the new Mortal Kombat stuff? Have you seen the new movie and that kind of thing? How do you what do you think of the franchise today?
First off, anybody who acts like me does not suck. I love it. From the first movie, all those guys who did the first movie love it because they're doing ideas and the personalities I created. Even when they see the kiss of death, I created it. So anytime anybody's doing that, I love it.
Yeah.
Even with that movie, generally speaking, that said, all the games use ideas that I came up with. So it's hard not to love yourself. And anyway, so with the franchise, I like the graphics. The gameplay is going just because of technology today and the way kids play today. They can play it on their phone. For us, we used to have to run home to play it on the console. So there's not so much time playing it as people would think. So gameplay has changed. And again, the only thing that I say is just the techniques and things like that in the game. I would let that grow. But I know primarily it hasn't changed too much because they like the program aspect of they're spending so much time on that the other side cannot be developed. I can understand that.
Yeah, because I think for me, one of the biggest things in like the more modern Mortal Kombat franchises, aside from like the graphics and everything, but it's now that it's funny that we talk about the first two Mortal Kombats being what's the right word I'm looking for? They were almost like used as like a scapegoat for violence in people, because the games were so violent. But you look at them now, and it's so tame, isn't it? Well, I say it's tame. It's still violent, but when you compare it to some of the Mortal Kombat stuff now, when you look at some of the fatalities that they're doing now with, Kung Lao now has, fatalities, takes his bladed hat off, spins it on the floor like a razor blade, and just drags you by your feet over it, and just pulls you in half and holds up two halves of you, which you can see all the insides, and you're just thinking, wow, I wonder if anyone that made the original Mortal Kombat ever thought it would get to that level, whether people thought that as Mortal Kombat evolved and as people's we become sort of more desensitized to violence, I guess, as we sort of move forward, movies getting more violent and this kind of thing. Did you ever think it would get to, if we'd get to that stage of violence within the game?
Yeah. First thing is, yes, I have I get gifts from fans, and I have my own action doll series or custom made unique one of a kind action figures.
Yeah.
That being said, a lot of the stuff that you, not a lot, some of the stuff that you see in today's Mortal Kombat, we already thought of for 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like, we wanted to throw the cat on the floor and let it run at you, like in the, there's a horror movie. You get, man, what is it? Phantasm, where the ball comes at you and like that.
Yep.
So when I see that, I was like, oh, that's kind of like our idea, where we throw it at you and put you in half and it goes back and put it on, and he puts it on like, how he puts it on. So a lot of punching hole in somebody's head, that was the first ever fatality I created. That never made the team. So brutality was also another thing that I created for the first game that came out later. So a lot of the stuff, when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of like we had that idea in number 1 and 2. And now they're pulling it out of the basket. There were so many ideas that they were just like, oh yeah, we're going to use this idea. We're going to this idea. In the first game we wanted tag team. We wanted secret character. We wanted secret character tag team. If you're losing, all of a sudden you hit a button and then another guy comes in to help you.
Yeah.
And then there's two, as like a super character. Depending on the way you press the buttons, you can call Raiden, and then Raiden would fight with you until your energy got bad. But then John was like, we can't do that because 1 quarter will last.
Yeah.
So the balance of the play, it was all about the first. The balance of the play was a little different. So when I see them, and 2, in the first game we wanted to have 3 fatalities. So when I see them, I'm just like, the graphics are really vibrant and really cool, but the main idea is like, oh, we had that back in the day. And to me, when I see that, I'm like, oh, it hasn't changed.
Yeah. So you still got.
One of my favorite Mortal Kombats of recent years, I suppose it's not that recent now, it's on the 360. I think it was just called Mortal Kombat. So they redid it just as Mortal Kombat, but it was the plot of the story mode was Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 back to back, and you just played through the story, and then the story would follow different characters. You'd have a fight as Johnny Cage, he'd win the fight, and then the story would follow a different character, and then when they got into a fight, you then had that fight. And I think they have like the one was on Earth Realm, you then go back, second one then is in Outworld, and then you have Outworld invading Earth for the final act. I thought those 3 as like a 3-act story game worked really well. And that sort of brought all 3 of those original games in together. I've kind of lost touch with the franchise a bit since then. I think they've introduced lots of new characters and things like that, but I really enjoyed going back to the original characters and that original story from the first trilogy. But on the I think it was on 360. But yeah, they had that, and then I think they're on like 11 now, I think. So it's, yeah.
Too. I think John did a good job developing. A lot of ideas came from the filming, but he took those ideas and expanded them a lot of them. So I think he did a really good job on doing that, telling the storyline, at least for the first couple of games.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I have a real soft spot for that original Mortal Kombat movie. As a kid, I remember my parents renting it and be like, "We've got the Mortal Kombat movie at home." You just, oh my god, we need to get home very quickly so that we can start watching that. And it's one of those movies. It's got so much nostalgia, and it still looks cool. It still looks cool. It still runs well. But some of the things in it, like they never quite. I don't think anyone ever quite got the feel of Scorpion's rope dart move, basically, particularly great until this new movie, this newer Mortal Kombat movie where they tried to sort of reboot it. The intro to that film is absolutely amazing. It's your Scorpion and Sub-Zero having their battle, and it is just they finally got this rope dart thing absolutely perfect, and it is literally as you described it. It is a rope dart, and it's, you know, seeing Scorpion use it properly and fling it around and use it to try and catch him, and you were like, oh wow, we've hit it now. We've hit that point where, you know, the technology and the martial arts have kind of caught up with each other, where we can actually film this really well and it looks cool. And I really hope they continue with that particular version of Mortal Kombat as a movie, because it now feels very much like the video game did, and does, but it feels very much like more of a throwback to the older Mortal Kombats rather than being sort of solely based around all sort of the newer stuff. It's still got the core original characters rather than, just a plethora of all the new ones. I feel like the franchise is in a really cool place at the moment. It's still just so popular.
I still think I mentioned this before in a stream, but I still think one of my favorite Mortal Kombat things was the old Mortal Kombat Conquest, I think it's called, or there's a cartoon and there's a live action one. It was the live action one, and I don't know how many seasons they did, but with the last episode of the last season, Shao Kahn's Shadow Priest killed all the heroes. And I think they were going to do the storyline where in a lot of games they go back in time, right? So I think Shao Kahn breaks the laws of Mortal Kombat. So the Elder Gods are like, they rewind time and give Raiden a second chance. But it got cancelled. They never did another series. So in canon for that series, Shao Kahn wins and kills all the heroes, and that world takes over. And I just thought that was quite novel. It's like, okay, the bad guys win in that, and then it just ends. They never picked up a season 3 or 4, however it was. So that just always stuck with me. I just thought actually it probably does it itself better by not correcting that story, because I think that was their plan, was to undo it all in the next season, but it never got made.
Yeah, interesting. It's always good.
Yeah, it is. That's my only complaint about the first movie, is the lack of fatality. But they were going for a younger crowd, so I can understand that. But I really enjoyed, for the most part, the newer movie. I thought it was really good. I thought that, in my opinion, they shouldn't have killed any of the main characters until the tournament, because Mortal Kombat is a tournament.
Yeah,
definitely.
A main character, I thought that, and I can understand that. A lot of times people think that they can recreate Mortal Kombat when they don't understand that Mortal Kombat is already Mortal Kombat. If you want to recreate something, have a spin-off that you can recreate.
Yep.
Don't take something that is already there and then or have them act in a way which is not, they've never acted before. No, you don't do that. Liu Kang is the hero, and that's just the way he is. He doesn't turn evil because that's just the way he is.
Yeah, definitely.
Do a different game, a different way where he turns evil, or have his cousin turn evil.
Yeah, awesome. Right, segueing us very nicely into a section that Tim has tentatively titled "Test Your Might." So, for anyone that isn't aware, even with Daniel's name there, Master Daniel Pesina, you are a bona fide martial arts expert. We just would love to chat to you about your experience with martial arts. What was it that sort of got you into martial arts? How old were you? And also, what martial arts are you a master of?
Sorry. Kano is calling me.
What? No way.
No way.
Yeah,
Oh, dude.
I keep in touch with all the guys from Conan. We always call, before we used to get together a lot, but as we got older, we don't get to hang out as much, but we always make sure we call each other and talk to each other all the time. And so usually, so you guys know it, usually at this time, 3 times a week, Kano will call me up because he's driving home from work, and then he'll complain about work. And I'll just sit there and listen, and I'll work on my computer, and he'll just be talking the whole time about what's going on at work. Anyway,
dude, that's awesome.
That's
Calling
brilliant.
you live. That's so cool.
So with, martial arts, revenge is what started it. So
Okay.
I have two older brothers, and then my younger brother Raiden is 8 years younger than me, and I am about 6 years younger than my older brothers, 6 and 7 probably. So I am the kid when you're younger who's always doing the chores that the other brothers should be doing. So they want a glass of milk. I got to get up and get them a glass of milk. And I'm old, so they want the channel changed on the TV. I have to get up and change the channel. I have to be to hold it around because I'm the smallest one. So one day I'm watching a series called Charlie Chan the Detective, black and white series where Charlie Chan, he breaks mysteries and crimes. So during one episode, I saw him grow up. And basically, when I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, if I learned judo, I can." My dad told me what it was. He was serving in the U.S. Army. So, but anyway, he was just. I just thought, well, if I learn judo, then I don't have to do all the crappy stuff anymore. I could throw my brothers, and then I don't have to do this anymore. So I just a long time
Amazing.
in art classes. So yeah, so I wanted my revenge. I never got to throw my brothers, but that's what started.
Yeah. And what was the first? Was judo the first martial art that you sort of started to study?
Back in those days, it was judo, but there was no kids classes. There was only classes for kids 13 and older.
Okay.
So I am just turned 11 years old, and my dad takes me finally after I booked him, takes me to a judo class. And the guy looks at me. He's like 13 and older. My dad's like, yeah, he's 13. And then the guys kind of like looked at it, and then my dad, I saw. My dad served in the U.S. military during the Korean War, and this guy, the teacher, served in Vietnam. So he was just like, he looked at the wall and he was like, "You in the forces?" And then he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm in the forces." So they started talking about that, and then he was like, "Okay." He goes, between brothers, I will take your team, and
Yeah.
see how he does. You can put up with it, and I'll just decide and so yeah, so that's how it all started.
Amazing. So yeah, 11 years old. That was, and yeah, just because from military service from the teacher and your dad, he just sort of let you off the hook and it's like, oh yeah, if you can keep up, that's awesome.
That's brilliant. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Well,
and did
because my brothers would always wrestle me and win, so
Yeah.
I was used to losing. So when you're used to losing, you don't have you can either give up or become up.
Yeah, that's a good outlook to have, I think. Yeah. And with sort of, I guess, as you get older and do you sort of look to experiment with other sort of types of martial arts as well, or was judo the thing that you sort of stuck with for quite a while?
I did judo, some Shotokan karate, and some Shotokan jiu-jitsu. And I only had a brief, like 6 months with jiu-jitsu because they would not teach anybody under 16 years of age for jiu-jitsu class in those days because it was very much more like joint locking, like definitely more of a military than a sport thing.
Yeah.
Because again, they were, the guy who was teaching, served in the military. So, for some reason he thought that someday I'd have to use it, for real. So it was taught, like that was taught. So that was a requirement for that. I only studied that a little bit. But later on, when that school closed, I got to do Kung Fu. And then that is really where or technically it's called Wushu. Wushu means war art. Wu means war, means art or action or play. So when you hear Kung Fu means skill through time or skill through work. So if you're a chef, you have Kung Fu. If you're a car mechanic, a good car mechanic, you also have Kung Fu. So a lot of people think like Kung Fu is martial arts, which is part of martial arts, but not particularly only martial arts.
Yeah.
So I started doing Wushu or Kung Fu after I spent for a while.
Because
Yeah.
Wushu's used quite a lot in like movies, isn't it? Because it looks impressive on camera. So I can remember seeing a lot of people say like Wushu and like Jeet Kune Do and stuff. Because like Bruce Lee works from like Wing Chun. Because I did Wing Chun for a few years. I got quite into that. But you don't really see much Wing Chun on like in movies or in games, with the exception of that Ip Man
For,
film.
so sorry to interrupt. So what you see in movies is contemporary Wushu. So they take a bunch of styles and mix it together, and that's why it looks so flashy. Because really, traditional martial arts, when you see it, it's a little ugly. You know, because it's more for combat and less for aesthetics. So, so a lot of people equate Wushu as the whole phrase should be contemporary Wushu, because Wushu just means martial arts. So you can do Tang Soo Do, Korean Wushu, or you can do Shotokan Karate, which is Japanese Wushu, because Wushu just means martial art or war play. But Wing Chun is in Mortal Kombat 3 there's cutscenes, and one of them, Kung Lao is doing Wing Chun.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so in one of the cutscenes, yeah, so it's pretty. It's out there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And of all the sort of various martial arts that you've studied, which of them, or maybe they all sort of influence, but which of those martial arts sort of really, I guess, influenced the sort of characters that you portrayed in Mortal Kombat? Or was it sort of, as you were creating the movesets, were you kind of drawing from sort of different inspirations from different martial arts for each character? Or was there one that's sort of slightly more dominant because it kind of worked better to sort of capture it for the game?
When I was doing that I made like Johnny Cage does more in Chinese martial arts. There's two main theories and three main styles because of the area.
Mm-hmm.
So southern China or southern style looks a lot like karate, because Okinawan karate came from the shores of when they were trading. Trade that China's southern martial arts got a big influence into Okinawa, which later on went into Japan. So you see karate, it looks like southern martial arts. Northern looks like, everybody knows Shaolin, so that's northern. And then northwestern, which is the older styles, which are literally, there are some styles that have been dated back to cave drawings, 425 BC, where they're starting to organize ways to make more. How to use a club, how to use a club, how to use a stick, how to use an ox jaw, because an ox jaw's jaw is so big that you can use it like an axe and you can use it like a hammer. So they were, you know what I mean? They were already weaponizing things that they could and making records of it. So anyway, so northern styles are that type of thing. So for Johnny Cage, I took the northern style. For Scorpion, I took the southern styles, and for Sub-Zero, I took the northwestern influence. So each of them have their own little influence, because again, that way when the kick, there is really no other way to make a proper fist than this. Sure, you can have your thumb in here and like here, but if you do not fold like this, if you leave this open and try to punch like this, you will break your knuckles. So only X amount of ways to make a fist that every style has. Every single style does this. It's the actual way that you link the techniques together that creates the style or the flavor of the system. Yeah. So
yeah, that's cool. I mean, that is super cool, because it does kind of, the way you described each of those sort of, I guess, geographical areas of the styles, it does fit the characters really well, especially when you sort of, hear the history behind them, sort of as you've, just described then. That's, the whole thing is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. I'm sat here chatting to, to the guy who I've used to, decapitate and set fire to people for most of my life. And it just hearing that process of, that it is based off of, genuine, the thought process, I think, is probably what I'm trying to get out of my mouth, is the thought process that's gone into it, the care and attention of, dedicating particular areas, particular styles to those particular characters, not necessarily because it looked cool, but also because it kind of fits the aesthetic of where that character is. And this is blowing my mind. I have to say, it's awesome.
And when I don't, because I didn't work on the other games, I know in 1 and 2 we thought of a lot of detail. When I ripped out when they wanted me to remove the head, like in Predator, they're like, you're going to grab somebody and you're going to yank it, and the spine is going to be on it. And then I was like, well, if that was feasible, if that was really going to happen, you couldn't just yank it. You'd have to lift it, because if you yank it, the spine would remain in the body, and then you just remove the skull. So we got to make sure that when we film this, that I grab it and I pull up and do that. And then, then I turn towards the camera because I'm holding it up, and that's how that whole. So it wasn't just like, okay, there was, everything had thought, everything would be like, hey, they would be like, hey, if you're going to do this in a physical, how would you do that physically? Because somebody would get an idea, but it wasn't just the idea, it was the way it was executed. To make it like cool. Otherwise, if you went like this and you just showed that we're geeks, we would be like, no, the spine would have fell off, because how did it rip out the rest of the body? We think like that, details like that. Geeks think like that. So I was like, no, you can't just do that. You got to lift it up, otherwise the spine will come off. So there was a lot of just thinking of things.
That's awesome. I love that. There's just so much detail went even into just making sure you pulled the head out with the spine correctly. That's awesome. Segueing, I guess, onto our next topic for you that we were quite interested just to hear your thoughts on, because you're so heavily involved in obviously the creating of the stars of fighting for Mortal Kombat, and you've got a really good idea, like you're saying at the beginning. You wanted it to look real and to feel right. Our next topic is martial arts in fighting games in general, I guess, or even we can extrapolate that to to movies as well if you'd like. Do you feel that we'll say specific in video games at the moment, but do you feel that games represent martial arts correctly, or do you feel that there's maybe some games kind of go for the more flashier stuff because it maybe it looks cooler or that kind of thing? I mean, how do you feel about martial arts being sort of represented in video games?
Even in movies. First of all, let me say that, so that way people don't read it wrong. If there's a martial art movie, I will, and it's on Netflix, I will watch it. And if it's demand here, demand is where you pay. If I see a martial art movie, I will pay to watch it, even though I know it's not going to be great, because I just love martial arts and I feel like I should support the community. So, but martial arts for movies is much different than martial arts for sport, which is much different than martial arts for combat, where there are no rules, that sometimes you lose a weapon, you have to face a guy with a sword.
Mm-hmm.
And that fighting is a little bit different than how people can perceive martial arts. So there's 3 different types of martial arts. So with that understanding, they're cool all the way around because it's portrayed appropriate to to how they're using it. The only thing that I see is the martial arts for combat. I don't see really that anymore.
Yep.
Only because for martial arts for combat, nobody wants to be hitting like a 50-pound steel bag all day long, or going down, or hitting or conditioning or hitting a tree. Nobody does that training anymore. And that's the type of training you need for traditional martial arts. It will not work if you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
To some degree, because the techniques all rely on that type of, not only, it's not really muscle strength, but it's just the bone conditioning. Your bones can withstand a lot of blows. You know what I mean? I see often, a guy hits another guy in the face and he breaks his hand. No, that would never happen in a proper traditional martial art, because I have a 50-pound steel bag. I don't hit it as much, but I hit it like 3 times a week, 500 or 600 times, kicking and punching, just to keep it honest. And and when I have clients come in, most of my clients either own their own school or have like come from a different martial art background. So they come in just to kind of, they get, they're a little bit older, so they're like, oh, I'm going to go work out with Johnny Cage or a Scorpion or Sub-Zero. And then because I'm kind of old school, I don't really try to change their martial arts. I try to be like, okay, if we're going to be doing, this is what you do. Like a lot of sports martial arts, which is great, is awesome. But a lot of like, oh, I'm going to reach into the hand. No, you never reach in with the hand because the guy is going to break your fingers and break your arm. He's just going to punch you. You know what I mean? So like if I have this open and I grab this finger, I'm going to twist it and I'm going to break it and then going to punch this hand a couple times. So that way until that bone is sticking out of the hands, because that's the requirement for that. So nobody wants to really reach for me in a combat situation. This is combat. I have like a couple of jiu-jitsu students who come in for striking. And we always go over that stuff because they're like, this is what I'm going to use later on when I'm older and I can't completely grapple. Because grappling is really about like when I get older and they're younger, they can out-grapple me. But this is the type of stuff that will always keep me relevant. Like, when we're goofing around and I show, when he's bigger and stronger, outweighs me, but then I do some move that I learned here, just a guy, just goofing around with the guy, and they're like, oh, that's different. That's for old people. That's why with work, and you gotta continue your training and your martial art exploration to more of a art level, because then it becomes an art, because you don't have to really break a guy's finger or break his joint, you know what I mean? Or learn the different hands positions, because there's different hands positions to crush your face. Like, but really, here's a tip: if you're going to punch somebody in the jaw like this, it's really like this. See how it is? Because this will fit inside. See how it fits my whole face?
Yeah.
Look at this. See, these knuckles on the bottom are not hitting. So if I'm going to punch you exactly in this side of the cheek, I'm going to make a certain fist so that way I could shatter this bone.
I'm just wondering how many people in the chat right now are doing this. They're just trying to they're doing it themselves to see how it feels.
I was doing it live.
If you tape your hand, you cannot do that hand position. You can't. You could break a guy's jaw, but I'm talking shatter. So and there's different ways to hold your hand to do all these different techniques. You know what I mean? They're different. Like it is, but nobody teaches that because it's a dinosaur. Who's going to do that? Because true, you know how to do this, but unless you hit the iron bag every day for 3 years, hundreds of times, you don't have the power to demolish somebody's face. Yeah. So with our time. So that's why I'm saying like traditional martial arts is different than sport, which is different than what it is in movies. And you need all three. You do need all three.
Yeah.
That's a really cool answer. I really like that. Like seeing them as they're different versions of that thing, isn't it? Because it's very like if there's a subject you know a lot about and you watch a film, sometimes you're watching it thinking they're not getting it right, but actually you just got to remind yourself, but it's a movie. Yeah. Like if the movie's fun and you're enjoying it, it doesn't matter they haven't got that detail because it's not the real version of it. It's the movie interpretation of it. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good way of seeing it.
It is.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's what I mean. I always put it as food. Sometimes you have pepperoni on your pizza. Sometimes you have sausage on your pizza. Sometimes you have both.
Yeah,
and they're not wrong. It's just appropriate for what you want to eat. Sometimes a piece of chicken. Sometimes you want a piece of steak. Whatever you're in the mood for.
Yeah, there's room for everything. That is such a cool answer. I agree with Tim. That is such a cool answer because I think too many, certainly too much nowadays. You get so many people that are so hell bent on gatekeeping the thing. It's not that, so it's wrong. Whereas like the thing you just said at the beginning was, you want to watch these things and support martial arts. I mean what a wonderful way to answer to start the whole answer is just, well, first of all, I want to support martial arts in any way that I can because I love it. I mean, that is amazing. And I think, that is possibly the best answer for all of it. None of it's wrong. It's just whatever suits suits the situation.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So when it's in a movie, I don't really the only the only critiquing I do is when they, for me, I think they should put more martial art actors in movies. You know,
Yep.
if
Yeah.
if you're, I hear a lot of times, oh, I studied martial arts for 6 months, and I'm thinking, that's not, my beginner studies martial arts for 6 months. You know, that's nothing. That is
Yeah.
not the grand scheme of things. You know,
Yeah.
Chinese martial arts, because of all the weapons and all the different hand strikes and everything like that, you're a beginner for 4 years. 4 to 7 years is intermediate.
Yeah.
7 and above is advanced, and then it breaks up into how much you practice. You know, to be a proper master, old school master, you have to display a mind-body connection, which sounds really weird. But you know what sounds weird too is how wine tasters can just taste the wine and they can tell you what vineyard it comes from and what year the grapes were done and everything like that without even reading a label, because they have to taste, because their taste bud is like that. So a martial artist who has a mind-body connection can also see that. That doesn't mean they're superhuman. That just means that you are running as efficiently as you can. Your technique is the best it can be for you. You know, sometimes if you want to improve, you have to give the student $10 million so they don't have to work, so that way they can just practice and then they can improve. You know, so that's the type of like mentality that you go in when you're teaching. So too. So, you know, new school master is, I have to learn I have to know the whole curriculum of the style. And that's good too, because you don't know a whole system. But that's not, an old school master was usually because they had a mind-body connection. And that title was given by other people who also had a mind-body connection.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Right. One of the last topics we'll get to before we jump to some of the chat. So we've started a few of the questions that people have been asking in the chat that we will ask, obviously, some people's questions. So if people do have a question they want to get in the chat, put it in there. We will star it and we will hopefully get an opportunity to ask as many of them as we can. But yes, the last topic, which is, again, another franchise that is very, very close to my heart, and I think probably close to a lot of people's hearts here, is we got to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. It's not as violent as Mortal Kombat, but it's up there as something that I have loved Turtles my whole life. I still love Turtles now. I still buy all the Turtles comics. So yeah, I mean, your involvement in Ninja Turtles 2, how did that come about? Yeah, Johnny Cage to Ninja Turtles. I mean, yeah, how's that come about? Tell us about that.
So I used to compete in martial arts, like sport martial arts, and one of the tournaments was called Ryan, Kevin Nash. We'll talk about him and his crazy that guy is awesome, man. I got some good stories for him. But anyway, so we're at a tournament called Battle of Atlanta. It's one of the biggest tournaments in North America over here in the States. And we heard that, they're looking for people to be in a movie. So it was myself, Rich DeVizio, who's Kano, and Ho-Sung, who is Liu Kang, at the tournament. And we were like, okay, if they approach you about being in the movie, tell them you have 2 other friends who are really, really good. So all 3 of us made this pact. Like if one of us gets approached, we're going to try to get the other 2 people into the movie. So Ho-Sung got approached and he was like, I have 2 other guys who are really, really good. And so all of a sudden one day I'm up in, and they wouldn't tell us the name of the movie, anything like that. And all of a sudden I'm up doing an interview and trying out for some martial arts stunts and then they tell me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2 and I about went crazy. Yeah, because I'm a fan. Back in the day I had the comic books at home, so I was just like, oh my God, you know, how awesome is this going to be, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because that process of getting sort of Ninja Turtles 2 as a movie like really baffles me, because that was back in a period when Hollywood, it did do sequels, but it didn't do them very often, and when they did, they were years after the first movie came out. But I remember seeing that Ninja Turtles, the first one, was the first movie I saw in the cinema with my parents, and I think they regretted taking me to the cinema at 6 because I was just so excited. I couldn't contain myself. And then about a year after that, there was I remember seeing flyers and posters and magazines for Ninja Turtles 2, and you're like, it's only been a year. I don't think I'd ever even sort of understood the concept of a sequel at that point. But I think because the first movie was, and it still is, quite well regarded and well received, that I think they would like, right, we need to do another movie now. And it's really cool that they actually, effectively got, I mean, it's like you said earlier about getting more people who know martial arts into movies. It kind of feels like with that movie they did, because there's so many, especially with like the foot soldiers, they've got to be able to fight. They're being taught by Shredder, who is the master of his craft. He's the ultimate evil, and he teaches all of his people. Master Tatsu, who is this drill sergeant who almost like beats his students to be that good. So to have foot soldiers not be that good on camera, I think would have been dreadful. So it's cool that they kind of got you guys in, really, to kind of to do that.
Well, next time you watch the movie Turtles 2, when you see the Foot Clan, we're always doing this.
Yeah.
Because because in the turtle costume they can't see you. So what happens is you don't want to start from a dead stop. We got to see what kick they're throwing or punch, and we got to get in front of it.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So we do general choreography, but when they're in the costume, they're just throwing techniques wherever they can because they can't really see, and it's up to the Foot Clan to get in front of it and to react like we got hit, or sometimes we get hit.
Yeah.
You actually had to know martial arts in order to recognize what technique were coming, because otherwise, if you had just a regular guy, it wouldn't work.
No.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, it was a lot of work. We did choreography for like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Trying to get things set before they got in costume. So yeah, it was great.
But even just saying that now, that it immediately gives me even more appreciation the next time I get to watch that movie. I've had them all up there with all the other crap that I've got up there. But just seeing those sequences now after hearing that, it's like, okay, it's going to give me another appreciation for these, people that do put themselves out there for this kind of thing. Just learning that you had to kind of, just like you say, get in front of their attack move, just so that they could it looked like the turtles were winning, I guess. Otherwise they're just going to constantly lose, aren't they, because they can't see you. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Oh man, sorry, I love Freya's comment here. There's a new Ninja Turtles game out at the moment, but it's done in old arcade graphic style. So yeah, someone needs to get a ROM hack for Mortal Kombat in Shredder's Revenge. Yes, let's get Johnny Cage helping out Leonardo on the streets of New York. That would be awesome. Right, before we jump to questions in the chat that we've started, at the moment, Retro Gaming Revival is currently partnered with Manscaped. So we have a horrendously cheesy advert that I have had to film because it saves having to read out all the bits. So here we go. Here's our Manscaped plug. So
get ready to laugh.
Back in 1 minute 30 seconds. Support at Retro Gaming Revival is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming. Their products are precision engineered tools for your family jewels, and Manscaped's performance package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who have trusted Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off, and that includes free worldwide shipping with the code RGR at manscaped.com. And if my maths is correct, that's about 8 million balls.
The Performance Pack 4.0 has arrived, and it is a game changer. Inside the box you will find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear, nose and hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to carry all those goodies with you.
Manscaped sent everyone on the RGR team the Performance Pack 4.0, and at risk of giving too much information away, I can say this is a great package. All the products are made with a really great finish to them, and you can really tell that Manscaped are trying to change the way that we talk about men's hygiene. So, after all that, it's time for you to take care of yourself now by using code RGR at manscaped.com for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. And as the box says, your balls will thank you. Doesn't get any easier to watch that. No matter how many times we've seen it, it does not get any easier.
All I gotta say is use Manscaped or you'll get paid.
There we go. Endorsement from the cage. You jump on that. Thank you. Okie dokie. We have started a whole bunch of questions. I apologize to anyone in the chat if we've not started the question. The chat has been really, really active tonight, which is fantastic.
Really busy, yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for interacting. So we are going to go with Mr. Dorbs, who would be on the stream tonight, but he's not feeling himself at the moment. So we'll go with Dorbs' question, which is for yourself. Favorite Mortal Kombat character that you have played?
Not only because it looks like me, but because Johnny Cage is the father of all characters. We created the pathway to the game with me just being me, and then when we started doing the Johnny Cage character, we didn't have a name at the time. We continued creating the game and trying to get different ways to do stuff, knowing that other people would be coming in. So that process lasted like 2.5 months of trying to just create that character. So in retrospect, Liu Kang took 3 days.
Wow.
So if you really look at, over 60 days versus 3 days. So because by the time we got, what happens is Liu Kang was like, hey, I want to do the best moves. So I'm going to let everybody go first, and then I'm going to see what you guys did and one up you guys. I'm going to do something better than you guys. And that's what his plan. But in the end, it was kind of didn't work out as much as he thought because he wasn't that much a part of the overall creation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, next question from Hunter Nort. It is, what's the Johnny Cage daily exercise workout so that we can take on Goro and Shao Kahn? So, yeah, do you mentioned earlier about the the different bags and the different things that you sort of use to try and keep up your skills, but is there something you do on a daily basis in your sort of like your martial arts regime, so to speak?
When I teach, I like to work out with whoever I'm teaching. So I like do not as hard as they are, but I kind of like go through movements with them all the time. So still take falls, still get thrown, still kind of get joint locked, or I don't let them choke me out or anything like that anymore because I'm too old for that. But for me, like a day starts at, I have clients that start at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I have to be at the school before 6 a.m. And so after the clients are done, I'm going to try to get to the gym and lift some weights, stretch a little bit, go back to the school, have a few more lessons. And I work out with doing my empty hand techniques, whatever I'm going to do for that day. A little bit of that, teach a little bit more. Then I do weapons. I do about 36 different weapons. So the majority are bladed. So I get to play around with them, and then I get home and I just hang out and watch Sci-Fi Channel or Netflix or just chill out.
That sounds like a very cool day to me. Certainly better than my general day of being a civil servant. So yes, that works for me. Okay, next question from the other RGR member who is getting ready to jet away on holiday. Not that any of us are jealous of that whatsoever. So this is from Ryan, and that is, who do you play when you play Mortal Kombat?
When I play Mortal Kombat 1, I like to be Raiden. When I play Mortal Kombat 2, I like to be Baraka. That
is a cool choice. Very cool choice. I vividly remember getting that fatality right the very first time, where the blades come out and you just stick them in, hold them up, and they just slide down. You're like, That's badass. That is very, very cool.
A good glass of wine, very satisfying.
Yeah,
Or-
it really is.
or good whiskey. Yeah.
Okay, another question from Hunternaut. We have Scorpion and Sub-Zero deathmatch. Who wins?
I always preferred Sub-Zero because when finally it was going to be Scorpion and Sub-Zero, they were brothers, and Scorpion murdered the father to seize the clan, and Sub-Zero got mad because the father was going to let Sub-Zero be the leader of the clan because his martial arts were better, but Scorpion got jealous and kills Sub-Zero, and then Sub-Zero kills his own brother, Scorpion, because he killed his father. So I always thought that in that mix, Sub-Zero was about the just one. So I always preferred, even today I always look at them as brothers because, they're wearing the same armor type thing.
Yeah.
So they're really brothers. They just, that's cool that they changed the storyline later, but that never really made sense. But yeah,
Okie dokie. Okay, so next one is from our friend Scott over at Marathon Gaming. Now, he says this isn't a Mortal Kombat style question, but I think this ties in quite nicely with Ninja Turtles, if I'm honest. So I think he's asking, can you guys tell us what's better, the lasagna style deep pan pizza or the New York sliced Manhattan style pizza?
okay. It's like martial arts. I've never had a bad piece of pizza. I have pizza that is better than others, but I've never tasted a bad piece of pizza. So that it just depends what you're in the mood for,
Yeah.
If I'm on the go and you got to eat pizza while running to your car or back to your work, then you got to go with the Manhattan style pizza. But if you got time, then you got to do the Chicago deep dish pizza, because there's no way you're going to have that deep dish pizza driving in the car. You'll be wearing that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a sit down affair, especially if you get it in America as well, where they make deep dish pizza well. I think over here in the UK we don't quite get it. But if you get it in America, it's got to be a messy affair. That's a very diplomatic answer. I like that. I'll bring up this question, even though I think you answered it anyway, but I'm going to bring it up just so Tez can see that we did ask it. And that was, what did you think about the current martial art movies, and is the genre still big? Okay, yeah, is the genre still big? That's quite a good one.
I think the way that right now, the way of expanding, it's expanding, because I was just talking about the movie now with Keanu Reeves.
John Wick.
John Wick. John Wick is a martial art movie, but not a martial art movie, so it's growing. It's really good.
Yeah.
And to answer Taz's other question, Carlos Pesina is not only Raiden, he just retired from Warner Brothers. So he is in the last, since Mortal Kombat 4, he is every character in Mortal Kombat, because he is in charge of the motion capture and the action art design. So he plays every single character out there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Slave labor.
Okay. Another pizza related question. Everyone in there with the pizza questions. It's that analogy you used earlier. It's planted pizza in the minds of everyone. There we go. Don't want to. So this question is from another YouTuber, very good friend of the channel, Raya, and that is pineapple on pizza ?
I love pineapple, but nowhere near my pizza.
Oh, thank God! I thought I'd have to. Yeah, I thought I'd have to say some stuff there, because it's pineapple does not belong on pizza for me.
Joe, I don't hate pineapple on pizza, but I don't think I'd ever choose it. Like, if someone served me up a pineapple pizza, I'd just be grateful that I'm being given a pizza, right? But if someone said, "What do you want to order?" I'm not going to choose pineapple to order.
Unless
I wouldn't turn it down if you offered me a piece of pineapple pizza.
If you're in the New York area, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut area, if you put pineapple on your pizza, they will lynch you.
Lynchable affair. There we are. We've had it confirmed.
Yeah, the pizza shop owner will just bring out the rope, and you're going to be hanging.
There we are. No questions asked. Just get the rope. That's it. Done. You know,
get the rope dart.
Yeah. Okay, another question from other team member Ryan. Did you ever get approached by WCW when they were doing Mortal Kombat Fire and Ice ripoff? Ryan and everybody else on the channel was big into wrestling. It goes over my head because it's not something I ever watched as a kid. So whatever the Fire
It
and
was,
Ice thing.
yeah, it was definitely a thing which looked like it was emulating Mortal Kombat. They had a wrestler debut that
Good
was,
place,
was
right?
done up, yeah, he was done up to look like Sub-Zero. I don't think it lasted. I think it bombed, but they were going out and doing like forms and martial arts in the ring, to then go and wrestle, but it just didn't gel. But yeah, I don't know if you ever saw that or heard anything about it when it was being done.
When I was doing Games Master,
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
that thing, that production company took myself, Liz, who is Sonia, and Hosung to brainstorm ideas for potentially that before it came out. So
Mhm.
back in the day, I actually have like the non-disclosure contract that I had to fill out was like 8 pages. I actually scanned it one day. When I found it, I scanned it because I was like, oh, this is a piece of history. Because, you know, they were thinking about doing that, and they asked us what our input or what our ideas were, how to do that were. So we met with them for that.
Mhm.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Very cool. Another one from Brian is coming in with all the wrestlers here. And that was, did you ever meet Kevin Nash when filming? I'm presuming you must have done something with Kevin Nash then.
Yeah,
Again,
he was the giant. Do you remember in Turtles 2 when Shredder takes some of the use? He comes back as a giant
he comes
muscly
back
Shredder.
as the Super Shredder.
That's Kevin. That's Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
learn something new every day. Did you ever meet Kevin Nash?
One of my encounters with Kevin Nash was at the end of the night. Him and I finished off a fifth of whiskey together. Us two going out for the night. And I have a picture of both of us looking really, really drunk. And he can hold the fifth of the bottle between his thumb and forefinger. That's how big his hands were. So
Wow.
a fifth of the bottle, his hand.
This is hard.
And we're both like like that. So yes, I met Kevin Nash. Really awesome guy.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And I think we'll probably end it with one more Ninja Turtle question just from Dorbs. And this is purely because Dorbs gets told that he looks like Vanilla Ice anyway. So he is asking if you've met Vanilla Ice when doing TMNT 2. That
Yes.
now iconic Go Ninja song. Good grief.
Yes, when Vanilla Ice, he was a nice guy, but when he first showed up to the set, Michelangelo went to give him a hug and he had the full costume on. And so he walked over like this to give Vanilla Ice a hug, and Vanilla Ice's bodyguard face palmed him and knocked him over.
Whoa.
And then you had 18 black belts jump up and ready to rumble. Beat up Vanilla Ice's bodyguards. We were just going to lay into him because I could have just because, and two, the way he moved, I realized just because you're big doesn't mean you know how to fight. You know, you're going to get eaten up because it was like a family. You know, him messing with Michelangelo, we were going to like that. And the stunt coordinator, Pat Johnson, was like, hey, guys, don't do that. And he calmed us down. But we were that guy was going to go to the hospital. It's time. I hope you have good insurance, but because for sure you would have been, going to the hospital.
Wow. See, we're learning all sorts tonight. This is phenomenal. Love it. Right. Very, very aware that we've taken an hour and a half of your evening, and I think this has been one of my favorites. This has been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you
awesome.
so much for giving up your time and coming to join us on our little slice of the internet. It's been a dream come true to be able to speak to the true Johnny Cage, the true Sub-Zero, the true Scorpion. Just thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If you want me to put you in contact with any of the other clowns, I'm happy to do it.
I think I can.
Carlos and Carlos, who's grading, and everybody else now. He's retired, so he's got a lot of free time. And probably Rich, Kano, Baraka, Cabal, Quan Chi. Who's the other guy? He's one more guy. He's gonna, when he hears this, he's gonna be mad at me that I forgot his character.
Oh man.
Samsung, Jax, all those guys, still super tight with them. Happy to tell them, hey, you should go on this show.
I can feel a new series coming on. You might have literally kickstarted a new series where we try and speak to as many people from Mortal Kombat as we can. Oh, this has been awesome. Do you have any websites or anything you'd like us to plug for you at all? Anything you'd like us to give a bit of airtime?
Yeah. You know what? Just want to visit. My Instagram is Master D Pesina. My Facebook is Master Pesina. And my Twitter is Master Pesina. You know, yeah, just stop by the videos or just say hi, or whatever it is. You're always welcome wherever I am.
Beautiful. And yeah, just thank you again so much for giving us your time. It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you everyone for joining live and in the chat. The chat has been really active tonight. That's really wonderful to see. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of the questions. There's been a lot of them. We've tried to catch them as we have, but yeah, all that leaves us to do now is just roll the outro and say thank you so much again, Daniel Pesina.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
See you next time.
Bye.